Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. I hope everybody's doing really well and you've all had a fantastic week. I have got a really exciting guest today. I teased you all a week or so ago, and I can now let you know who it is. So we have Carline Kelf, also known as DJ Flourish. Carline is a DJ, a writer, a speaker, and a founder of the Self Love Rave. She's a woman on a mission. The Self Love Rave is the ultimate dance experience. It transports women into a place of freedom and joy and ultimately just back to themselves. Now, I experienced it firsthand when I met Carline at Happy Place Festival at the end of August. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not just saying this because she's on the show, but it was by far the best part of our day. Me and my friend were absolutely buzzing afterwards. So I just had to get her on the pod. So welcome, Carline.
Yay! Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, no, it's such a pleasure to have you. And I think your energy on that day, myself and my friend Lisa just came away like, who is she? We need to know more. You were dressed like a disco ball and absolutely bringing the vibes. And I know you had to do, was it like 6 sessions that you did over the weekend?
Yeah, 6 in total, back to back. Yeah. I'm hardcore though. I was a hardcore raver, so I have a strong constitution and I can go and go and go.
I love that. And yeah, very similarly, actually. I think, I'm a kind of a ex-party girl turned, self-love lover now. So it's an interesting dynamic, I think, when you've kind of been in that rave scene and you're kind of, into self-development now. But we can talk all about that. So do you want to give the listeners just a bit of an introduction, I guess, to who you are and how you came to be in the situation that you're in now, DJing and creating the self-love rave experience?
Yeah, okay. So I'm a 47-year-old wife and mum from Cheshire. I've got a teenage daughter as well. And I started my journey of self-development when she was about 3 or 4. It was quite a very, very deep journey. I know we'll probably go into that a little bit more. But part of that journey was finding my joy and doing what lights me up. I knew that I wanted to do something that was exciting and different, and I could feel it within me and I didn't know what it was. And so I started to explore that with the help of coaches and things like that. And I decided to start DJing and try it out. And as soon as I pressed play, I knew that it was a part of it, a big part of what my purpose was, but I still didn't know what it was. And so I announced to the world in 2019 that I was going to be a DJ. And I think everyone was a bit like, freaking heck, she's already lost the plot for the last few years. Do you know what I mean? Now she's doing this. And but I really was very committed, very, very passionate about it. I did a lot of DJing. And when we went into lockdown, I started offering online raves where women would come together and we would basically, support each other through lockdown and what that was like. And then I would deliver these raves. And I did 150 raves in 1 year. Every more, yeah, I know in the morning they were like between 20 minutes and half an hour. And then I built this membership and then I had freedom raves, high vibe raves. So the high vibe one was like more joy. And then the freedom one was like a deeper experience. And so I've just built this library and this concept up. And then when we came out of lockdown, I started taking them on the road. and doing live events as well, DJ sets and stuff like that. And basically I then ended up calling it a Self Love Rave because it just ended up being this kind of amalgamation of my journey, which has been permission to be me, accepting all of me, doing what lights me up and joy, but also connecting with my body. And so that's basically what my self-love raves are. And that's come from my own journey and from just trying out this kind of thing online that then went into person, and then the press got hold of it and it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. And, and then now I'm obviously touring with Happy Place and stuff like that. And then I'm doing another festivals, and then I'm going across the UK next year and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool. It's amazing. And it's all come from me finding my joy, but also knowing that I'm here to do something, much bigger.
Yeah. And I definitely want to delve into that, because I think there's a lot of people listening that can relate, that might be in, the 9 to 5 and just feel that pull to do something more, or maybe they're in a place where they're not, so happy. So, yeah, I mean, look, I can relate to everything you've just said about the raves, because I think when we first went in, and it was a silent disco rave at Happy Place, wasn't it? But we kind of entered the tent and we were a little bit, we're both quite confident girls, but we were a little bit unsure of what to expect. And don't get me wrong, the first probably 5 minutes, everyone's kind of, two-stepping and looking around at each other. But by the end of that 30 minutes, we were in tears, we were hugging the strangers. Your hype women, which we'll talk about as well, because they are incredible, were just getting everybody going, the energy. And is it a difficult thing to kind of navigate and help people to get to that point within the event? Because I guess everybody comes in with a really different journey, a different place that they're at, a different self that they're bringing in. There might be some people going in that aren't as confident as others. How do you go about doing that? Because you did it beautifully.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I suppose I think because I'm so relatable to people, I think it helps them. So I think there's a couple of things. One, I'm funny and silly, and I think that can help people. Two, I'm vulnerable and I'm open about stuff, and I share at my own raves in particular. I share things that come up for me, struggles that I've had, and that automatically just eases everybody. Then obviously you have the hype women who are there to give the audience permission to dance, but they've been given permission by me to dance, so they're uncomfortable as well. We're all uncomfortable, but we're all in it together, kind of thing. And then at my raves and my larger raves and everything, it's a much deeper experience, because like I've got my intimate raves coming up soon. That's where we have a little bit of audience, like not participation, but there's sharing. And so there's deeper connections made. And then at my larger raves, I have everything from the moment you book to the moment you walk through that door, to then the before we rave and then during the rave is geared up to making you feel safe, making you feel accepted, making you feel welcomed, celebrated, connected, all those kind of things. So there's a lot of energy that goes in from myself and my team in order to make people feel all of those things. And that's really, really important to me. It's probably the most important thing about the rave. It's not just about the music and the dance. It's about accepting ourselves and moving into a place of real celebration for ourselves.
Yeah. And I know Happy Place was obviously a dry festival. There was no alcohol on site. But I think your self-love raves are sober raves as well, aren't they? And I think most people that probably went through the rave scene and the party scene have had, whether it's social lubricant in the form of alcohol or drugs, and have always had something extra to, I guess, kind of give them that confidence. What was it that made you decide to make the self-love rave sober? For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes.
Well, it wasn't really a conscious decision. They were always sober, because when I did my online raves, they were just in the morning at like 6:37. At the end of the day, it's a well-being experience. It's not a rave. It's more well-being, female empowerment, personal development. And you don't go to a yoga class and drink a glass of prosecco. Do you know what I mean? And also, like, because what we're doing is about connecting you to your true authentic self through dance, and also like really tapping into that heart versus your head, like alcohol doesn't support that really. And I want everybody on the same level, even though it's uncomfortable and some people might be going for it more than others. I want there to be a unity between everybody. And I think that that's much, even though when people are drunk, they're all happy and, and people seem to be more connected, it's not really a true version of yourself, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we've all come home from a night out with random girls' phone numbers in our phone from the toilets who were our best friend the night before. We just cringe in anxiety the next day, don't we? So, no, definitely. I think the connections that you would make in those instances would be far deeper than anything where alcohol was involved.
Because you're being vulnerable. You're not vulnerable when you're drinking, but vulnerability leads to connection.
Yeah, 100%. So let's go back to the start of your journey then. What was it that triggered something in you that made you feel like you wanted to go down that route of and kind of path of self-development, and what did that look like for you in the first instance?
Yeah, I did a talk about this on Friday, actually. Basically, I was a massive party girl, like huge party girl for years and years. And on nights out, it was wild. And I was the one that brought the outrageous kind of fuck it energy. And like mad shit would happen if I was on a night out, but in a good way, fun, mad shit would happen. And then I moved up from London to Cheshire, where I am now, and the same thing happened. Even though I met my husband, the after parties were back at our flat because he had a wicked flat, and I was just like, everyone's back, And it was just, I was queen of partying, and then I had my daughter, and I had extreme postnatal depression, and I didn't feel joyful at all for a couple of years. But then when I started to feel a bit better and like that light was coming on back within myself, I was still being invited to everything and going out, and I just felt so disconnected from it. I didn't feel like I wanted to go out, and I really struggled with surface level talk. I really struggled with mum talk. I really struggled with, let's get off our face talk. None of it filled me up. And at the same time, I had a pretty strong inner critic, which I'd still do, but I manage a lot better. And, I was kind of like, beating myself up. I should be wanting to go to these things. I should be enjoying this kid's party. I should be enjoying this conversation about, how many hours sleep my child is having. But I just felt so disconnected from all of it. And it was a pretty dark time because I was in a vulnerable state, new mum, vulnerable, lost my whole identity. It was a pretty dark time for me in lots of ways. And then I got introduced to the world of personal development by somebody where it was a women's kind of networking event, and it was called Damsels in Success, where it was female entrepreneurs that would go. And I obviously didn't have a purpose or anything at that time, but I was like, right, I need to go into this world. I can feel this world. And it was so amazing. I found like I belonged suddenly because there were people talking about deep stuff, talking about growth, talking about self-care, talking about everything that I hadn't had a bloody clue of. And it just opened up this world to me. So that was probably about 10 years ago that I started on that journey. So that's where it started, and how I got into it. But how I've got to where I am now is when I started that journey, I started it from a place of I'm not good enough and there's something wrong with me. And I've had to do a lot of work on, and it became another addiction of mine. Personal development just became another addiction to not be in the present moment. And so it took me a few years to realize that I had to do some very deep trauma healing, and be with feelings that were very uncomfortable, and look at relationships in my life, especially relationship between myself and my daughter, and things I was carrying towards her from my own parents, and work out shit with my parents, and say some really fucking uncomfortable shit, and learn how to use my voice and to say no and to put boundaries in place and rock the boat, and all this really uncomfortable work, and learn how to receive love, and learn ultimately how to be compassionate to myself and to accept all of myself, including my need for control, my selfishness, my self-centeredness, all these parts of myself that show up a lot of the time. And so it's been a very, very deep journey that has been liberating but hard. But alongside it, I found my joy and my purpose, and that has been the thing that's kept me going. And it's the thing that keeps me, getting up every day and keep doing this work alongside it, because it's never ending. I have to continually do the work. It's just, there's always things coming up that I'm like, right, I need to work on that before I'm going to be able to get to that within my business. I'm going to have to work on that before. Or like at the moment, I've got loads of events coming up, so the domestic stuff is not getting as much. I'm not putting as much energy into it, and I can feel my husband getting antsy with me. When he gets antsy with me, I get even more rebellious. I'm like a little teenager, and I'm going into an energy which is not great in our house. I can feel it. So then I'm like, right, balance what needs to be done in the next week in order for me to put energy into that. Do you know what I mean? So it's a constant work all the time.
Yeah, I think Denise Duffield Thomas has a phrase, and it's another level, another devil. And it's like you up level. I guess it's like with income and earnings and, energetic set points with stuff. You get to a certain point and you don't kind of go, oh, fuck it, great, here now. It's always the next thing, isn't it? So you work on your control and become, less controlling, but then there might be something else that comes up as a result of that, or it's just self-acceptance, isn't it? In fact, I can't remember what I was listening to the other day, but they said, I think it was another podcast or maybe an audiobook, and they said something like, it's not about finding self-love and loving every single part of yourself. It's about accepting yourself and finding real self-acceptance and learning to just accept every part of you. And I think it's so easy to think that people that have got self-love are just so loving of every single part of themselves, but actually it's normally just knowing that there's parts of your personality that you're human. None of us are perfect, and if we think that we are, then there's probably more of an issue there than we realize. What did you find the most difficult in that journey? Because I think you make it sound like such a not an easy, but it was, well, I did this and I did this and I learned to accept myself, and it's like yeah, and I get that, and I'm kind of on that journey too, but it's fucking hard. And I guess nobody gets to the point that you're at without having gone through some real challenges. So what were kind of the real kind of pits for you where you started questioning, is this even possible?
I think my physical health has been tough, because I've had a lot of issues with hormones, because I had a very traumatic birth with my daughter, which I think is what kicked off the postnatal depression, which I think was actually PTSD, because it was so traumatic.
Right.
And that kicked off a whole imbalance within my body of, estrogen, progesterone, everything at quite a young age. And so I've been on this journey with HRT and eating and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, I've also was dealing with an addiction to food. So I was bulimic for a very long time, probably from my late teens all the way into my late 30s. So I was managing or trying to manage that, as well as knowing that I needed to give myself a diet that was really healthy. But you say to someone who has an eating disorder, you need to restrict this food because this food's better for you. So that has been a very long-winded, deep journey for me. So I think my relationship with my body has been probably one of the hardest things for me. When people come to my raves, there's like a few different things that I advise people on, which is like you'll remember, I'll say, come into your body, be kind to yourself, tap into the energy of fuck it, tap into joy and freedom, and celebrate yourself. And the last three I find much easier. So I can really tap into fuck it energy because I've got a rebel in me that's like, if someone says no to me, I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's why I've been so successful in what I'm doing, because I'm like so committed, and I'm not gonna bow down to patriarchy or anything like that, and so I've got that, and I can really tap into joy. My natural energy is very vibrant, it's very fun, it's very young, and so it's very easy for me to tap into that. But tapping into a connection with my body and being gentle with myself are two things that I've really struggled with. So yeah, that's been the toughest part for me.
Yeah, and I'm sure so many people can relate to that. I think body issues and acceptance is a huge topic, isn't it? So, and I think you've tapped on something there or touched on something that I just want to come back to, in terms of not anybody, but anybody that DJs, I guess, could set up a rave like this and play uplifting tunes and call it a Self Love Rave. I think what you bring to it is that kind of secret sauce. I think for us on that day, it was your energy, it was your vibe, it was the permission you gave. It was, I think on one of the tracks you'd even overlaid it with Fearne Cotton's voice talking on one of the podcast episodes about self-love and self-acceptance. And I think that was what got me emotional actually at that point, because it was a point in the rave where it was, a real high emotional point, and then just hearing those words. Are there times when you've ever done these events where you've not been in a great place and you've had to bring it anyway? Because I guess your energy is what really makes it. Like, how do you personally push through that?
Yeah. Well, I definitely have been in situations like that, especially with my online raves during lockdown, because that was a tough time for everybody. But I suppose there's a couple of ways that I deal with it. One, I'm vulnerable with people, because when I share openly and honestly, it like removes the shame, because there can be shame around. There can be shame around feeling like that. If I've got to hold space for people, it's like, oh my God, I've got to hold space for people and I'm feeling like shit. Do you know what I mean? They're going to, and so sometimes I will be really vulnerable and I'll say, I'm feeling this at the moment, and it just calms everybody down and it calms me down. And then also I just have this automatic performer in me. It's just there. And so you saw Carline times 100 at Happy Place. So I was in there. I'd really, really prepared for that event. And the audience were amazing. They always are at Happy Place. So I was already in a place of confidence. I've done other festivals, and I've done corporate. So in the beginning days, I was doing corporate and stuff like that, and people didn't want to be there. That's hard for me. That's when the performer has to come out, and it's not fully me, fully in it. But I always smash it as I said at the beginning, I'm a hardcore raver. So I have this ability to bring this energy no matter what. But equally, I'm much more confident now. And I did a talk last week because I've started to do more speaking, and I was much more nervous about that. Like, I really own it now. And in my events that are coming up, honestly, I think those women are just going to be like, holy shit, because I've put so much soul, so much depth, so much joy, so much kind of like energy into it. I think that is what makes it, is my passion. I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so passionate about getting into people's hearts more than anything, really touching that core truth that I know is in everybody. And that's why I overlay words over music. It's why when you come to my Self Love Raves, there's such there's so much around the hype women and them being there to hold you and support you. And I just really want to make a very deep impression on people.
And you definitely do. And I think that vulnerability piece, I think you said at the start of our session, I'm fucking shitting myself. And we were all really nervous and really like just a little bit uncomfortable about what was going to happen. And so you saying that made us all go, oh, okay, she's feeling like that too. Great. Okay, now I can relax and know that we're all feeling the same way, even though it was for different reasons. And that was really nice, because I think often you watch people perform or put on a show and they won't share that with you for obvious reasons. And you kind of then don't get that. It's almost like you put them on a pedestal and there's like a bit of a shield between you. Whereas it felt like you were one of us and you were just in with the crowd, which was a really different type of experience.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I want to do, because I do really feel the more me I am, the more you'll be. And that means me sharing all of me, not just the nice, shiny fact that I can jump around and lift a crowd and mix amazing tunes. I have to show all of me.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned earlier around this draw, this kind of feeling that there was something more and you were drawn towards DJing. What was it about DJing specifically that you were drawn to? And I guess just exploring that kind of feeling of purpose and feeling like you weren't quite living your purpose. What did that feel like to you, and how did you go about navigating kind of getting to a point where you felt like you were living your purpose?
Yeah, I actually went on a course called called the Awakened Leader, and it was about becoming an awakened leader. And a lot of people who were already on it were like yoga teachers and this, that, and everything. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just didn't have a clue. But they were asking lots of questions to kind of draw it out of you. And I just would always have this feeling that it was going to be joyful, big audiences, and impactful. And I just had this feeling, because I was always able to do that. You know, I was always quite influential. When we went out clubbing and everything, you know, we'd end up, you know, back at after parties that I'd orchestrated with, you know, so many cool people and just shit going on. I just got this energy where I can really kind of motivate and get everyone like G'd up. Do you know what I mean? And I knew that it had something to do with that and speaking, but I also knew it had something else to do with it. And so I just talked about it all the time, right? I'd go on walks with, you know, I'd met this new group of people through personal development, my new tribe, where it was, you know, people who I could connect with and talk to. And I would just literally talk about it all the time. I don't know what it is. It feels like this, and I know it's going to happen. And it's like I created it. I brought it in. But something else I did was I asked myself when I was most happiest. And that was a bit of a clue, because I was always most happiest at after parties when I was in charge of all the tunes, and no one was allowed like on any of the music. So it was like, no, this one. And yeah, so it was a bit of a clue. So yeah, that's how it kind of started. I think for me, I'm a very feeling person. So I've got an idea of like, because this is only just the beginning for me, I've got a massive, massive dream. and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. I know I will. And I just talk about it and I feel it and I kind of put it out there, and I really fucking believe it. I really fucking believe it. But I think I believe it because it's destiny. I believe in destiny. I believe in something bigger than us. I believe that I went through everything that I went through and all the pain that I went through to get to the place where I want to touch people's hearts, because I was so disconnected from mine. And, you know, I believe that I've been given the most wonderful husband who massively supports me, just because I feel like this is my purpose and destiny.
Yeah, I love that. Somebody once described it to me as following the cosmic breadcrumbs. And that's how it feels, isn't it? You just do something and you're like, intuition guides you and you don't know why, and you just go with it. And I think so many people question what it is and how they're going to do it, and they've got to know all the facts and every single step before they can even take that first step. And it sounds like you just had faith that if you followed what it was that lit you up and brought you joy, and just did that next thing, that then kind of snowballed and created that path. Yeah.
Hey, that's actually, you know, what I want my ultimate goal to be, because it is what it is. You know, I went to a very academic school where you're pigeonholed. My daughter's the same. She's pigeonholed and it's not working for her. And ultimately, I believe my destiny is to have a part in changing our education system so kids are taught to follow their joy without knowing where it's going next. And I know that that's a huge undertaking, but it's, I 100% know that there's other people out there wanting that too. And I'm going to be a part of it in some way, shape or form. And my story is part of that, the fact that I started to find my joy. And from that, all I did was take the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step, without knowing to know where it's going, because there's so much pressure on kids, like what you're going to do when you grow up, and all of that is just takes you further and further away from yourself.
It does. And also they only know what they've been introduced to and shown within like the national curriculum a lot of the times, unless their parents are more like, you and that way inclined to encourage them to follow their joy. And it's normally either what they want for them or what their teachers want for them that they end up following. And I actually spoke about this in a previous podcast episode. The school I went to was an all-girls school, and there was a huge Muslim population, and every single one of those Muslim girls, bar probably one or two that I can think of, were going to be a doctor or a lawyer or, a pharmacist or a dentist, because that's what their parents wanted. And the amount of them that lit up when we did art class or gym or dance class or a sport, but they were just never able to really pursue it because a lot of their cultural background was the belief that you will do, what your family want to and consider a good job. And it just really makes me sad to think that there's so many kids going around that don't know what they want to do, aren't encouraged to, and only know the path set out by, the national curriculum and the government.
Yeah. Well, it does. It goes right up to the top, doesn't it? So this is why I know this is going to be a huge undertaking, because this is about talking truth to massive power. Because right at the top, they're controlling everybody. They don't want people to be into creativity and finding their joy and entrepreneurship and looking outside the box and not being someone who's hooked on sugar and alcohol and, and conditioning. So it's a huge undertaking, but I am 100% sure that I'm going to make a dent in it.
Definitely. And if anyone can do it, you can, with that energy and that vision and that purpose. So you've spoken a couple of times around the kind of connection element and finding people that you can relate to, in essence. If there are people listening now, and I know there are people listening now because they're in my inbox every week and they're struggling with their peer group, their immediate network, their friendship group, not being on this same vibe, not really being open-minded, what would your advice be to them to go and find like-minded people in their tribe?
Yeah, this was really hard for me because this was at the beginning of my journey when that was really uncomfortable. And I think there's two parts to this. There's the one which is finding your tribe, but then also there's the stepping away from people who don't serve you anymore. And so in terms of finding your tribe, I think it's just, I think there's a willingness. I think with anything where there's a change, and you want to do something different, you have to shift into the energy of willingness. Like, I'm willing to give this a go versus victim, poor me and my little story. Do you know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah.
willingness. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna find people, and it's gonna be bum clenchy, but I'm gonna start putting myself out there, and I'm gonna learn lessons along the way. But also like a bit of a prayer as well. Like, I pray a lot, and I say, show me the people, send me the experiences. I really want to grow as a person. I'm ready. I really want more people in my life. Send them to me. Do you know what I mean? Stick them on your vision board. Get clear on what you think it is. Is it big groups? Is it small groups? Like, really think about what you want. Do you know what I mean? And then just start getting out there and talking to people and just seeing what happens. And then in terms of like spending less time with people you don't know, with people you know, like, I found that really, really hard, because at the time I wasn't very good at speaking my truth or putting in boundaries. I was a people pleaser. I was still very much in a state of conditioning, which is I should be going to these things. I can't say no. How can I say no to that wedding? How can I say no to that? But at the same time, I was on this having to look at addiction, and a lot of the places where, I was being invited to, there was a lot of, temptation for me. And but I still went, and I still found it really uncomfortable. But then I was building these other relationships on the side. And then it got to the point where it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I don't relate to these people. And I just kind of stepped away. And it was very uncomfortable, because when you're a people pleaser and you think you should do things and then you just don't start doing them anymore, it's very uncomfortable. But slowly but surely, I started to feel more and more empowered from saying no. And that's been one of the biggest turning points for me, is saying no. And now I'll even say no after I've said yes. So someone wanted to, I was going out with my friend for a meal the other day, and then someone was like, oh yeah, we'll come. And I said, yeah, okay. And then I turned around and I said, I shouldn't have said yes then. And I turned back around and I said, I'm really sorry. I should have said no instead of saying yes then, because I want one-on-one time with my friend. I'm sorry. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. But to have the balls to do that has taken me time, and it's taken me being really kind of like talking from a space of heart, and it not coming from a place of defensiveness, which is what I can go into a lot of the time if I feel I'm going to be judged, moving from victim defensiveness into heart and connection. And so it's a journey, that whole process of meeting new people and letting go of the other ones and being with the discomfort of all that. And then having the voice to actually say no now, which is what I will do.
Yeah, it's saying no that's hard, isn't it? I think I can definitely do it a lot easier with friends that also set strong boundaries and get it. Really good example, in fact, the other day, my husband had set up a WhatsApp group for it's my 40th in January, and we're going for a meal, and he was organising this meal with friends, and one of my friends couldn't attend and just said, I'm really sorry, I can't make that weekend. And then she left the group, and he was like, oh, she didn't give a reason and she's just left. I was like, that's perfectly like within her rights to do that. She can't come. She said no. She's left the group because she doesn't want the communication anymore. She's not a big WhatsApp group messenger anyway. But I know that there would have been other people in that group that would have really taken offence to, well, she needs to justify herself and probably stay in the group just to please other people. It looked a bit, and I really respected it. But I think because I've done the work, and that's probably something that I would be comfortable doing now as well, I understood where she was coming from. And I think it's really difficult to do that with people that will react in that way and judge you, because it's hard then not to see it as a you problem and a them problem. And I kind of hate that phrase, because it is putting all the blame on somebody. But, that kind of, I guess, inner work is easier to relate to when you've done it yourself. I think as well, you raised something really important there around creating that network before you pull fully away from other people, because there have been people in my life that I know have pulled away from people that weren't necessarily right for them anymore, or groups of people, but they haven't created anything to move forwards with, and therefore they've just had this big gap of being a little bit lonely and actually confiding in me and saying, I feel really stuck here. Nobody's inviting me anywhere because I've kind of pulled away from them. I know they're not good for me, but now I'm kind of fucked.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important element, isn't it? Is finding some people that you can relate to be able to lean on and do more stuff with, and then maybe slightly pulling away a little bit more. And it sounds like that's how you kind of did it.
Yeah, it is. I think it's finding those communities. You know, if you're a woman, there's loads of women's networks out there, loads of them. If you're a guy, there's loads of. I mean, this is about sobriety as well, isn't it? I know a few sober networks out there, you know, across the UK that have coffee catch-ups and meetups and all that kind of stuff. You just go on Meetup, you go on, go on Eventbrite, have a look around. As I said, put it out there. Just go and be vulnerable and say, this is really hard. Like, I went to these things and we sat around in a circle where everyone was like, I'm a coach, I'm this, I'm that. And I was like, I'm just a mum. I don't know what I'm going to be or where I'm going, but I know I'm going somewhere and I'm here. Hello. That was it. So it was very brave, and it does take courage. But equally, so much comes from bravery and courage. Really, really, it does.
Yeah. And also, you're not just a mum. That's probably the fucking hardest job out of all of them. Give me coach or DJ any day over being a mum. I think that that's definitely the toughest job of all. Yeah. So let's just say someone's listening now and they're thinking, right, the Self Love Raves sound great. They sound like my sort of people are going to be there, but I haven't got anyone to go with, or I'm a little bit nervous, or it's so far out of my comfort zone. I've never done anything like that. Talk us through, because you mentioned earlier that right from like purchasing a ticket right through to the event, that you're made to feel like included and, reminded of your power and kind of how special and unique you are. What does that process look like? So I go onto the website, buy a ticket for one of your events. Talk me through what I can expect right up until the rave.
So obviously you get a booking confirmation, and then probably about 2 to 4 weeks before, I'll be in touch with everybody and I talk about what to wear. And it's done in a very, very really encouraging way, in a way to really, help you to choose something that feels really aligned to you, but also to come out of your comfort zone a little bit. So there's always the line between the two with me and my events. It's like, you are going to come out your comfort zone and we're going to welcome you with open arms at the same time. So there's a lot of that goes on. I talk about, if you're feeling nervous, especially for my larger raves, I do videos on if you're feeling nervous, what to wear, what to expect, all these kind of stuff. So you actually see me and hear me. Then we have WhatsApp groups for the larger raves too, for solo ravers. So anyone who's a solo raver can come on their own, and there's a WhatsApp group to start all that connection off for them. And then we have a group for the group ravers and everybody else. And if you're a solo raver for the larger raves, not for the intimate raves, but for the larger raves, you get to come in early and we'll connect you. I'm actually going to be building a lot more on that for the next large rave that I'm doing. I'm going to be building a lot more of that and making that a big thing, and maybe having something for them to do to really cement that connection. And then, so that's leading up to the rave. And then, and we get reminders and stuff. And I put videos in as well on the day of me, like, I know you might be feeling this and not feeling that, but fuck it. Put those fucking big pants on. We're all in it together. So there's a lot of that goes on. And then when they arrive, it's just hype women central. There is hype women everywhere. They all have a role. They all have a job, and they've all been interviewed as well. So they're all interviewed, and I find out what their gifts are, and I find out what they're not so comfortable with. And they're given the opportunity to, come out of their comfort zone, but also to utilize their gifts. Because I firmly believe that the more we are utilizing our gifts, the more like our world will be healed. Do you know what I mean? So they're given roles, and given strict instructions to follow that energy of warmth and welcoming that comes from me through to everybody. And then during the rave, at the beginning of the rave, like a happy place, I address people, but it's done in a much deeper way at the raves. And then obviously we rave throughout. And because at happy place, there was a lot of self-love in it, but there wasn't so much empowerment because there were men there. But I have a massive bee in my bonnet about the patriarchal conditioning that we're all in as women. And so there's a lot of empowerment at my raves as well. So there's an empowerment section where it's like, let's rebel against the patriarchy now. And it's all about tunes and my message that's all around tapping into self-belief, self kind of expression, rebellion, all that kind of stuff. So we have that as well. So it's just this major mix of like empowerment, self-love and acceptance for you. Yeah. All the way from the way you book all the way to when you leave.
Oh, I fucking love it. I want to go now. I just love it. And I know we had such a watered down version because it was so short at Happy Place, even though it was, more than enough for us to set up our day, because we did the earlier one, I think it was like 11 on the Saturday. But how long is the experience for your kind of the larger raves and the more intimate raves? How long do they go on for?
And the intimate one? Yeah, so the intimate one is the actual dance experience is probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then there's window either side because I kind of connect everybody a lot more at the intimate ones. We don't have all the WhatsApp groups at the intimate ones, but at the larger ones it's like 4.5 hours, but there's dancing for like 3 hours. So, and I have an alcohol-free bar, I have glitter stations, I have people doing massage, I have alcohol-free cocktail makers, cacao, all other things going on as well there. So it's like a big experience. And the one that I'm doing next year is going to have more than that. There's going to be a lot more to upgrade the self-love experience. So like stalls and things like that. And then I might have workshops in the day to help people with confidence. I'm really thinking about hiring someone to help dress people for the rave. And then they can come down in like full, like glitter, like glory. So they're so up for it. Things like that. Yeah. So it's really like expanding now and taking on this huge kind of like energy. Yeah. It's such a unique energy.
Yeah.
That I don't think there's anything else out there like it. There's nothing else out there like this. This is just so special.
Yeah, it really is, because I've been to ecstatic dance before, but that wasn't the same experience. It was great, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but that was more of I guess like an individual inward experience. A lot of people got their eyes closed. It was very much, feel the music and go with it. It wasn't super high energy. A lot of it was quite kind of flowy and down tempo. This was not that. This was high energy, connection. Like everybody by the end was just absolutely buzzing. I was sweating. I think it was about 25 degrees on that Saturday at Happy Place. So God knows how I would have been after like more than 30 minutes, because I was absolutely dripping in sweat. But it just felt like you felt the best version of yourself on that day at the end of it. So God only knows what it would be like after 3 or 4 hours, that you must get people like literally floating out of there. What are like some of the best pieces of feedback that you've had from ravers?
I like it when people say things like that was a therapy I didn't know I needed, because that's deep. I like it. I love it when people say they're buzzing and joyful and all that kind of stuff. But it's more like, have I shifted something within them? Have I shifted like their kind of attitude towards themselves, but also their attitude towards other women, and awakened them more to the patriarchy and given them the energy to be like, I am enough and I'm going to go out there and like, smash this thing that's me, and so that's when I get that kind of feedback. I mean, my feedback from the one I did in February, which was one of my larger ones, was just insane. It was insane. And, I've got something like 400 testimonials from over the years. So it's pretty, yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty good. It is pretty good. And I need that for my own validation.
Yeah. I can't imagine anybody attending and not wanting to give a testimonial though, because it's like such a crazy, like amazing experience. I can't imagine people go and come away going, yeah, it was all right, because there was nobody in that tent on that day that felt that way. I can tell you that just by looking at their faces.
The only thing that I do get feedback on sometimes is my music choice, because
Really? Oh no, top
know,
notch.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I did a shortened version, didn't I? So on the long version, we can't do that element of high vibe for 3 hours, full on. And so I do take people into a bit of a deeper sound sometimes. Well, I do always, and that's another area of discomfort. I'm like, right, some of you might get a bit uncomfortable at this point. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes. And then people want me to play drum and bass a lot of the time, and I'm not a drum and bass fan. It's not fully so. That's the one thing I get requests for: more drum and bass, more drum and bass, more drum and bass. And I do try in the larger raves. I did a drum and bass section, but it's not an easy sound to bring in with everything else. I've got to do it in quite like a. It's got to be quite. Commercial drum and bass for the music that I play. I wouldn't be able to go like proper, like really, really deep dark, because I don't think some people would be able to handle that, but I know that some people want it. They want that. So that's the only feedback I get is on music. And because, I play a lot of the 90s, and I play all the, a lot of remixes of tunes that people know and stuff. I really, as a person, really love hard banging house.
Yeah.
Same. I really like heavy house, and I like quite a grimy beat sometimes. Even though I don't like drum and bass, I really, really like kind of like I would say a progressive, deep, dark house. And some people don't know what to do with that. So I bring it in a little bit. I kind of bring it in a bit, but I bring it in with a lot of just be open. It's all right if it feels uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? So I bring in a lot of that in my raves.
Yeah.
That's the only feedback I get where it is like, and also some people aren't ready for my message.
Yeah, that's true.
They just want a sober rave, and this is not just a sober rave.
No, it definitely uncovers things. And like I say, in 30 minutes, me and my friend were both in tears at the end. And it wasn't oh my gosh, you've uncovered something that I didn't know was there. It was trauma. It was more like, you've lifted something that I didn't even know was weighing me down. And that was how it felt to then, it was like a release. And I know there was other girls there as well that were kind of crying it quite close to us. And it felt safe to do that. But yeah, I can imagine if people come just thinking it's a sober party, that it's a bit of a deep experience for them. And you're not going to please everyone with the music, are you? It's really difficult, especially over a 2, 3, 4 hour period. But I guess everyone's got to come open-minded. You've got to be willing to be comfortable, and you've got to be willing to be open-minded, and you're not going to love every single minute. But as long as you know and accept that, then the experience in its entirety is going to give you something.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, look, I could talk to you all day about everything, because there's just so much we haven't chatted about. But if people want to find you online, and well, this comes with a warning actually, because you have actually fire-started my vintage obsession now as well, Carline. Some of your purchases have been incredible, but then every time I see you open something, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just hop on Vinted. And yeah, it's been like the post office in here for the last few weeks. So proceed with caution if you do follow. But where can people find you? Where do you hang out online, and where is best to connect?
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram, although I do have regular detoxes, but I am on Instagram a lot. So that's at Rave with DJ Flourish. And then my website is djflourish.co.uk. But the best thing is to sign up to my email, because I send weekly emails, and they're very, very open and honest and raw. But I also send my mixes out first to you guys. I send empowerment mixes out, and I also release tickets first to my email list, and they go. So, my last one is sold out within like nearly 2 days, and then so did the one after that. And so the email list is where they get released to first. So that you can sign up to from my website or from Instagram. It's also worth me saying to people that I'm a writer for Substack. So as well as sending my weekly emails out, Substack is like a platform where you can upload kind of writing and audio, and it's basically like OnlyFans but with words. Like my life. It's a very, very deep, revealing in like kind of insight into my life and what I'm going through on my self-love journey. But it's full of so much wisdom, and it's full of so much relatability. People have described it to me as the least place that they feel alone on the internet, because it's very relatable. And so I talk about all sorts of things that come up for me, like procrastination, dealing with anger, all this kind of stuff as I grow as a person. And that is something that people can sign up to, and it's $3.99 a month just to have that. And it's a weekly, like I record it as well. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Substack until I followed you, and then I joined. And I think the last one you sent out that I got was the gratitude one, and it was that just 10-minute audio about how you've created a gratitude practice that feels authentic to you. And I think so many people could relate to that, because a lot of the time you do gratitude and it's like, thank you for my heart, thank you for the sky, and there's a bit of a disconnect. And I think you've done it in a different way that actually feels authentic to you, and it was real food for thought. But yeah, I didn't even know what Substack was until I joined your newsletter.
Yeah, people don't. That's why I'm describing it as OnlyFans, but with words.
So there's no naked pictures for anybody that wants those, unfortunately. But there's wisdom and lots of words and audio as well, which is great, and I love that.
That's my new little marketing thing.
And when are your next raves? I know some of them are sold out because they go like absolute hotcakes, but just let everybody know when the next ones are. And then I know you've got a big tour coming up next year as well.
Yeah, so the next raves that are available are in November. There's only tickets available for the Saturday night now. So that's Saturday the 23rd of November. And that's an intimate one, which is in near Manchester in a place called Stockport. Then I'm at Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in November on the 15th, I think 15th, 16th, 17th of November. So that's in Birmingham. I'm there. Then I'm also at House of Happiness on Saturday, the 9th of November, which is an LGBTQ plus led rave, sober rave during the day in London. And that is for men and women. And I'm doing a DJ set, 2 DJ sets during that. And there's discounts for tickets on my website for that. And then next year I'm doing a tour of the North. So I'm starting in the Northeast in Newcastle and Saltburn. That's for the first quarter. And then I'm currently looking for venues in Leeds and Liverpool and North Wales. And then I'm doing the ultimate Self Love Rave next October. So in a year's time, which I know is fucking ages away, but we have to build up to that. And that's going to be in Manchester. So that's for 500 women.
Wow.
So everyone comes from all the different raves across, and they will all come to that.
Amazing.
But tickets will go on sale for that probably early next year. I'll probably launch them quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be in for that. And also Leeds as well, because that's where I'm based. So yeah, the minute that you're in Leeds, I'm going to be snapping up those tickets. After Happy Place, we were like, we need to do more of this. We need to get on board and do a longer version, because that 30 minutes was just a taster. But yeah, I would highly, highly advise anyone listening that's thinking about it, grab a ticket, go, because you're not going to be disappointed. I can't imagine anybody coming away and saying it wasn't a worthwhile experience. So
yeah. Oh, thank you for having me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, go and follow, guys. And I will see you all again next week. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.